Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hey Everybody podcast, episode 81. My name is Christopher Gold. I have a new friend back here. I have this little squishy dog that my son got for me. He won it at the arcade. And now he's part of the show. I like him. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing good. My band and I, we played a big rock and roll show on Friday. That was a ton of fun. It's always a good time seeing them, and felt really good. The crowd was really good. The other band was great and a lot of fun. They're called Gooding. Check them out. And we played at Appleton Beer Factory, which we love. They always treat us really, really well. We had a really good time, and we'll be back soon. It's fun playing with my band, and it sort of forces me to confront stuff, but also reminds me of stuff, which is, I do these two very different things. I do like this sort of troubadour, fingerpick acoustic guitar, here's a story and a song thing, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite kinds of music. It's one of my favorite ways to be in the world. I love being in a new town and hitting their bookstore and their record store and their coffee shop and then playing a show and then driving, and I love it. I'm also in a rock and roll band, like a fairly loud, pretty rowdy rock and roll band. A lot of times when people hear that I have a band, they assume that it will just sound sort of like folk music with drums or, what have you. And it does not. We are a rock and roll band through and through. And that's a ton of fun too. It has difficulties because there's schedules and that kind of thing. And not everybody can always make every show, and that's tough. But there's a real joy to like connecting with three other people on stage and sharing a moment with them and celebrating a good show with them, or sort of laughing about a bad show with them, and just volume, and the crowd reacts differently. And I really love them both. So it's fun to get to do both. And if you've ever come to see either iteration of Christopher Gold and what it is that I do, well, I appreciate you. Thanks for being there. Let's have some coffee. I'm going to confess something to you, a little behind the scenes stuff. I have a microphone right over here that is doing the audio, obviously, because it's a microphone. And usually you can't see it. But right before I started recording, I adjusted the camera just a little bit. And now you can see just a little part of the microphone down here. And I could have not pointed it out, and you might have never noticed. I could have stopped and started over. But, I think it's going good so far, and I'm hesitant to just start over. And, this is life. There's a microphone. You can see part of it. What are you going to do? I had a thought last week that I thought might fit in with whatever this podcast is. Funnily enough, this podcast is nothing like what I thought it would be like. I thought this podcast would sort of be just a 20-minute version of like the in-between song banter at a solo show, And I don't really like the word banter because it implies that like it's not genuine or that it's rehearsed or whatever. And I have a couple stories that I repeat because they're attached to songs. But for the most part, each one of my shows is unique, and especially at the solo shows, there's not even a set list. So you're going to hear all kinds of stuff, and maybe something funny happened at the gas station. You'll hear it that day. That's what I thought the podcast would be. It ended up being more of an outlet for me to have conversations about what I was thinking and hearing and reading and learning about philosophy and stoicism and mindfulness and being present and that kind of thing. And that's cool. I really think it has limited the audience quite a bit. As the podcast became more of what it is now, the audience decreased quite a bit. But I kind of like that. I kind of like that if you like the other stuff, you can come to the show and see it. And that's awesome. I love doing that stuff. And, but I also love this stuff. So anyways, I had lived my adult life as someone who hates shoveling. And I live in Wisconsin, so there's a lot of turmoil there because it snows. And I hate shoveling. I hate it. It makes me angry. I hate doing it. I hate it. And I lived that way my entire adult life, 20 years of adulthood. Well, not quite 20. Let's call it 17. Our old place, we rented the same like apartment, half a duplex thing for, let me do some math here. I moved in when I was 21, moved out when I was 38. I'm going to embarrass myself. 17 years, right? Called 17 years. Lived there 17 years, hated shoveling the whole time. Loved that place. I sort of found myself in that place. I proposed to Tori while I was living in that place. She moved into that place. We got married and came home to that place. We had our son and brought him home to that place. I made my first 2 solo records that actually came out and went to people in that apartment. I wrote all my songs in that apartment. I loved it. I still do. I think very fondly about it. Our dog lived his whole life in that place. There's so much, our son lived his entire 12 years of life in that place, and I love it. So we move into our new place. This is the first time I've ever owned a home, and it's awesome. We love it. We love this house. We love the part of town. We love everything about it. It's really kind of like a dream for us. And I could talk for ages about why and that kind of thing. But we all three of us, we just love it. We love it here. We feel very at home and excited to be here for, potentially the rest of our lives. Probably not Oliver. He'll probably move out at some point. But Tori and I, we're excited to be here for a good long time. And hopefully it'll be the place that Ollie comes home to, and maybe one day, brings a fiance to, or a kid or something, We're excited. But since we moved in here, I like shoveling. And for a while, I thought that it was because, well, it's my driveway now, and I'm taking pride and ownership in my home. I jokingly refer to it as my land. Ollie thinks that's really funny. Like if a dog stops and like goes to the bathroom in our grass, I'll be in the window going, "Get that animal off my land." But actually, there's a lot of dogs in this neighborhood, and we love it. At random points throughout the day, one of the three of us will yell "dog," and we'll all run to the window and look at some cute dog walking by. So for a while, I thought I was enjoying shoveling because I was taking some pride in my home, in my land. It's like a farmer, you know what I mean? I'm a snow farmer, tending the crops. But I was shoveling some time ago, and I realized that what I really like about shoveling the new place is the old place had a very uneven driveway. And I don't know if you've ever shoveled a pretty seriously uneven driveway, but it sucks. Your shovel is always banging into like raised concrete, and it's jarring and sometimes even like painful, and it's awful, and you got to start over, and it's just a pain in the butt. Our driveway was redone not long before we bought the place. So we have like a totally smooth, wonderful driveway that's really easy to shovel because you just glide right across it, and it's magical. And I love it. And I will take a break to sip some coffee here. You should too. So I realized this maybe a month ago, that like, the reason I like shoveling now is because it's fun to be outside and it's good exercise. I do feel like I'm taking care of my place. There's like a gentlemanly thing. I'll go shovel for my wife and that kind of thing. I really like that feeling. And also it's much easier than it used to be because we have this smooth driveway. Cut to a few days ago, it snowed, and I was outside and I was shoveling, and I was almost finished, and I was thinking about how smooth our driveway is because I really do like it. And I sort of had this thought that might be silly, or it might be, out there or dumb or whatever it is, but it's the thought that I had, and I wanted to share it with you. I had the thought that this is the point of philosophy and stoicism and mindfulness and being where you're at right now and letting go of the past and not worrying about the future. The point is to smooths out your driveway. All these things that we talk about, that we read about, that we hear about, that we learn about, that is smoothing out your driveway. And there's no guarantee in that it's not going to that it's not going to snow. There's no guarantee in that you might not still have to shovel, and you might not even, like me, come to enjoy it. But as you smooth out your driveway, you'll find that it's easier to shovel, and maybe like me, you start to enjoy it. And it certainly takes a lot of the angst out of, like, oh, it snowed again and now I got to go shovel this driveway and I hate shoveling. And I think the reason a lot of people, I don't know if you can fail at any of this, but I think the reason a lot of people don't find what they're looking for in a particular philosophy or spirituality or even religion or even a relationship is that they think that thing is going to make it not snow anymore. When nothing can make it not snow anymore except moving to Arizona, What hopefully these things in our lives will do is smooth out our driveway, because the snow will come no matter what. And if you take the time to smooth out your driveway before the snow comes, when the snow inevitably does come, it's easier to clear, and maybe you can even find yourself enjoying it, I had a situation pop up last week. It's not a huge deal, but it could be an annoyance. It could be frustrating. It could be anxiety inducing. It could wind me up. And instead I kind of looked at it and I thought, how can I take this thing and make it is there a way to react to this that makes it a good thing? Is there a way to react to this that will make it fun? Is there a way to react to this that will be exciting, instead of just deciding, this sucks? And I think I was able to do that because well before that situation or any other situation presented itself, I was working on, metaphorically smoothing out my driveway. My driveway up here used to be very, very bumpy and jagged, and still can be sometimes. But, I think that's part of it too. We want these ideas and philosophies, and like I said, religions or even relationships or whatever, to be there for us when shit goes bad. And then when stuff's going really good, we don't spend any time reading or thinking or learning or talking. And we got to flip that, I think. I think when we feel really good is the perfect time to get some of these ideas down and get some of these practices down so that they'll be there ready when things go bad, insofar as things go bad, So yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I also had some really good conversations this week with a couple different people about like dark humor. I make jokes always. Tori can attest. There have been moments where I have been like in tears because something terrible was happening, and I will make the joke about my situation at my own expense whilst crying about the same situation. I just can't help it. My brain finds the joke. And I was talking to a couple people. I had a specific conversation with my wife where I was saying, I think the thing about making the joke at a time that might seem inappropriate, for me, I'm learning, I think it's kind of an acknowledgement that, like, hey, we have to think about this thing because it's happening, but it's horrible. So maybe if we also put a joke in here, it'll make it so the thing can be in our head, but we defang it just a little bit, or even for just a second, and play with it just a little bit. And we're not saying it's not a tragedy or a horrible thing. We're just saying, because this thing is so tragic or so horrible or so here, we can't get away from it. Maybe the joke will make it easier to interact with. Because I was thinking, with everything going down in Ukraine and in the lives of some of my friends, and even in my life sometimes, like, I don't think I would be able to bear it if I didn't make the joke. But occasionally I will make the joke and someone I really respect, like my wife even, will go like, "Oh, that's not funny, dude." But I disagree. I think the thing is, you still got to be careful. Like, I don't want to hurt anybody. You know what I mean? And I have had moments where I've gone for the joke and it has not landed. But for me, I think sometimes we treat people the way we want to be treated. And I'll tell anybody, like, if I'm hurting or suffering and you can show up on the scene with a joke, even about the thing I'm hurting or suffering about, please. Because either way, I'm hurting and suffering. And either way, this thing is real. The trick is, I think you have to trust the people around you and be trustworthy enough that they know that that's why you're going for the joke. There's obviously a calloused sort of asshole way to make the joke. And I think part of this was rooted in, there's a TV show called It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia that I really like. It's rough. And there's a podcast where the three guys that create and write the show are going back and watching every episode. And they're having these sort of conversations about darker humor. And sort of coincidentally in my life, people I really care about are kind of struggling right now. And I've just been having a lot of conversations and just thinking a lot about the role that comedy plays, in our suffering. And I think a lot of people think that comedy shouldn't play a role in our suffering. And I kind of think the opposite. I sort of think the alleviation of suffering, even for a moment, is one of the best things comedy does. I think Charlie Chaplin said, in order to truly laugh, you have to be able to take your pain and play with it. And people say, like, comedy is just tragedy plus time. And I always wonder, like, how much time? Is 5 seconds enough? Because I got a good one. And I'm thankful to be surrounded by people that understand that about me and are the same way. I have a couple friends that, I've presented something to them and they've made a joke that some of you watching this might want to fight the guy, but I loved it. I thought it was hilarious and I was glad. So I don't know, if that was worth sharing or if the driveway thing made any sense. But here we are, episode 81. Let's do some recommendations. I spent my weekend listening to ZZ Top, Lenny Kravitz, and Los Lobos, and a couple other like mariachi things, and a reggae band from LA called the Agrolites. Been all over the place this weekend. It's been fun. But I also listened to some of this stuff, and I wanted to share it with you. We'll call this like genre roulette, because I'm going to hit 3 records that are very different, but I love them all, and maybe you'll love them all, or definitely, hopefully, you'll love at least one of them. First up, too rare on the podcast, we're going to talk about some hip-hop. Wham! This record is called More Than Ever, and it's by Sims, who's from Minnesota, as are a number of very good hip-hop artists, from Atmosphere to Dessa to Mike Micklin to producers like Laserbeak and Paper Tiger and all kinds of folks. But Sims, woo, I love him. Cecil Otter, he's really good too. This record is wonderful, and it feels fresh and unique, and it's just got a good vibe. And he's rapping about art and empathy. And there is a song on here called 100 that has a line in it that I have heard at least 100 times, and it has made me laugh every single time. And it's about being on social media and how he's a very lefty liberal guy, but it is also about how like he feels sometimes like the left and the liberal people try to squash some fun because everything's got to be so dang serious all the time, which is also an impulse I get. Life's complicated. Let's talk about it later. Up next, boom. This record is called Dead FM, and it is by Strike Anywhere. Strike Anywhere is a melodic political punk band from, I believe, Richmond, Virginia. And this record came out in 2006. So I would have been 22. And this is their 3rd record, maybe their 4th, depending how you count them. And this record and this band means a lot to me. Many of my political ideas came from this band and bands like them, who found me at the right age where I was trying to develop my own ideas and maybe was not always around people that were suggesting ideas that I found appealing. So I turned to music, and all the way from Johnny Cash to The Clash to Anti-Flag and Against Me and Strike Anywhere, I learned a lot. They sing about the prison industrial complex. They sing about feminism. They sing about the way Native Americans have been historically treated. They sing about the way minors have been treated, and it's fantastic, and I love it. And it's melodic and fun, and the guitars rip, and it's smarter than a lot of what passes for political music. Identifying a politician and then cursing at them, I don't view as a very intriguing political stance. See Warped Tour 2005. Yeesh. So I've always been drawn to bands like Strike Anywhere and Anti-Flag that can back up what they're saying and, that kind of thing. Finally, on the off chance that you're watching this podcast and you don't love indie hip hop or screamy punk rock, this record is called Paper Airplane, and it is by Alison Krauss and Union Station. It's bluegrass, and Alison Krauss has a beautiful voice and plays a wonderful fiddle, and this band is awesome. And on occasion, their guitar/mandolin player will take a song or two. His name's Dan Tominski. He's very good. I didn't have this record, and I found it at the store, and I bought it because I was excited, but I specifically bought it because I wanted to play it for my wife, and we listened to it at dinner, and we all really, really liked it. Alison Krauss, if you don't know, she's wonderful and very talented, but also very sort of important. She was like the second youngest person to ever win a Grammy. She had the record for most Grammys won by a woman until Beyonce won her like 27th or something like that. And she sort of revitalized interest in bluegrass, and she's fantastic. Her band is fantastic. This record's fantastic. You should listen to it. 2011, this one came out. It's real good. Real good. And that'll do it. I hope some of this stuff made sense. I guess I have to assume that it does because people keep listening. But very often I'll do these. I don't really plan these at all. I sat down in this chair thinking, I'm going to tell them the driveway story. And that was it. I have no notes. I have no outline. I have no real plan. But somehow I do, I sit down and I press record, and then, next thing you know, 25 minutes goes by and I'm left sitting here going, I wonder if that made sense. I wonder if that was coherent and, if it came together. But apparently it did, because people watch it, and I thank you for that, and for your kind words, and for supporting the podcast. I got a lovely note and show of support from a friend of mine all the way out in New Mexico, and it came at a good time. I was really happy to receive it exactly when I got it. So thank you guys for your encouragement and your support. And in a related/unrelated note, if you live in Nebraska and or Colorado and or even South Dakota, and you want me to come play, either you have an idea for a place I could play, or you want me to play in your living room, email me, Christopher@ChristopherGold.com. I'm trying to get somewhere. It's always easier to get there if I can play a show or two on the way to, fill up the gas tank and that kind of thing. In the meantime, I'll talk to you soon. Be good to each other. Turn the news off just now and again. It is privilege, but, it's okay to use privilege now and then if you have it. Take a quick break. But also, make sure you're feeling stuff and not being too detached either. It's a balancing act. I get that, and it's complicated, but we'll figure it out. In the meantime, just be good to each other and treat people well. And Quit voting for assholes. Love ya. Bye.